positive. Started out to gain, and for the most part, my years in the service were all right, except for later on, I mean early, the social problems, but later on, after President Truman integrated the armed services, things got especially much better. And so I don't have any gripes, except for some of the things that happened to me as early on.
John?
I felt it was a positive experience. Flying then wasn't my cup of tea. I had enough of it. But I feel that I'm a survivor. I'm here today. And I felt that the Lord blessed me. I'm here that I can share with you my experiences. And from that World War II experience, the government was grateful enough to allow us to get a college education. And I did go under the GI Bill to get an education, and then from there was another career that I established.
Let me point out, I guess, after World War II, you decided to walk as in infantry.
Flying wasn't my cup of tea, as I said, but I did go back into the service, and then I was what the term used oftentimes, a ground pounder. I said, I want to feel that ground.
Paul?
I agree with John that there were benefits that came to us that probably some of us might not have had after the war because of it. But I think that no one who has been in combat in the military comes out the same person. You're just not. And we're shaped by those experiences. The other thing is that I think for many who served in the war, it was probably the most dramatic thing that ever happened to them. Because most of us live ordinary lives, and there's nothing ordinary about combat and war. So you have a lot of people for whom these events become crystallized, literally. But I have to say that even though those of us who survived, came out different, for us it was still better than for some. And one of the things I'm thinking of, because I cannot let this moment go by without at least mentioning it, are people like those, and Michael, you know what I'm going to be talking about, the 27th Division, Infantry Division, which is New York's own. And I had the honor and the privilege of going into combat with them on Macon Island in the Gilberts, the 165th Infantry Regiment. And I have never seen a more courageous group of people. And for some of those men in the 27th Division who were in the Saipan invasion, life was truly never the same because they were wrongly branded by a general as cowards, which they did not deserve and did not earn. And it was only literally in the last week, after 50 some odd years, that we were finally able to get something into the congressional record about these people. A group which earned 3 Congressional Medals of Honor, and 2 battalions of whom every man got a Bronze Star. That was the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 105th Infantry Regiment. And those were local people from upstate New York, one of whom is sitting right there, former Captain Joe Meehan. But I had to take the time to say that.
We appreciate it. Major?
Yeah, if we're going to put it in positive or negative, I'd have to look at the overall experience in a very positive sense. Because I learned a great deal. And it was so positive, I decided to stay in the Army and make it my career. So from that experience alone, came a lifetime that where Uncle Sam and the things I did after that had some meaning to it. Because coming from the area that I came from and experienced what I had experienced, there wasn't too much that you could look ahead to. But once the war was over and my military career kicked back in, I found the life of a soldier, a regular Army soldier, very, very challenging and very rewarding. And everything I have today, I owe to Uncle Sam. So it's positive.
Thank you. Mrs. Jaffee?
Given the opportunity to leave the service or ship over and become a chief, I left because I knew that with my form of repartee, I'd end up in the brig. And it took me a little while. I went back to my old job in the lab and got myself comfortable as a civilian. And the VA hospital opened over here 52 years ago over on Holland Avenue. And I walked in there the first day that they opened the hospital, and I've been actively promoting veterans affairs and veterans rights and veterans care ever since, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
Well, I was real proud of it. I'm glad I did what I did. It was very enlightening. I got able to get along with women, which you never did before, I know. And when I came out, I started the Veterans Service Agency in Dutchess County. Then I was married and went on through having children and all that. But now I'm back into it again, and it's nice because I know what the World War II veterans, what they need, what they're talking about. I can understand their problems. I send them up to her at the VA, right? No, it was very enlightening. I'm glad I had the background.
Very good. Colonel Liberty?
I grew up, and when I came home, I got out and I worked a while, and then I got called back in, and I decided to stay in. And I'm very glad I did. I had many, many rewarding years. Korea wasn't fun. It was dirty and the coldest I've ever been in my whole life. Vietnam was not pretty, but there are parts of Vietnam that were very beautiful. There's a place called Dalat. It's up in the mountains, and they have roses that are as big as dinner plates, and orchids the likes of which you've never seen. When you get off the chopper, the air is filled with scent. And I discovered that every place I landed, originally, every country has a different smell. But I was very grateful, and as the Colonel says, everything I have today, I owe to the Army. I stayed in, I retired, I have a good pension, but I grew up in the Army. And you learned that Daddy's not there when you get in a mess. You gotta pull yourself out. And I'm always glad that he always told us girls, never do anything at night that you're ashamed to face yourself in the morning when you comb your hair.
Thank you.
Besides that, I was always afraid he was going to come after me.
Mr. Schuss.
My post-war experiences are all positive. The training that I got in the maritime service has carried me through my whole life. I was not able to go to college on a GI Bill because of the service that I was in, but I did get a good technical training, and I became an engineer at IBM and retired after 30 years. But I'd like to ask a question today of the audience rather than have a question come this way just for a minute. Can you raise your hand if you really understood the role of the Merchant Marine during the war?
No, most people didn't.
Well, I put together a little pamphlet, and it'll be passed around here. It's not a big thing. It's no episode on how I won the war or anything else, but it does tell the story of the role of the Merchant Marine, and what we did, what our accomplishments were, what our losses were. And it was a 100% volunteer service. So if someone's up there with that packet of material, you could just pass it around, please. I don't know where it is right now, but if not, we'll give it to you as you leave the auditorium today.
Thank you very much. Well, I would like to thank our panelists for personalizing World War II for some of us. And it was very informational, and I appreciate you all joining us today. Thank you very much.